Just gonna watch the thing. We're not gonna be mean or anything like that. That is not what this is about. If you are here to see me bash Egoraptor or anything, that's not what this video is for. This is just to have a good old chat about Zelda, because, you know, I'm a nerd and sometimes I like to talk about Zelda.
The Legend of Zelda.
See?
It's a series so huge, I couldn't help but say it all. Ooh. But its hugeness is mostly... Hey, what are you doing over there?
Oh, I'm just writing my preemptive counter-argument about how you're wrong about my favorite game of all time and the best game ever.
Oh.
Okay. In my defense, my shirt is like a dark gray right now, and as you can see, the hater's shirt is yellow. Obviously can't be us. Obviously cannot be us. No, I'm deliberately trying not to be this guy. That is our entire goal. Because I enjoy this video. I enjoy, like, just because someone doesn't value the same things in Zelda that, like, I value, doesn't mean that they're, like, not a Zelda fan or enjoying it wrong or anything like that. So we deliberately do not want to be this yellow shirted guy. This video just starts out right off the gate with Egoraptor knowing, like, already that this is a controversial subject, and he's got to, like, head off this. So we're gonna try and not be this, and we're gonna see where that takes us. Also, oh my god, thank you for all the gift subs coming in. Little Robin Bird going to Thea and Yubtub. Thank you so much. And Nightfire, thank you also for resubscribing for 35 months. So appreciated. Okay, let's hop back to this.
I think that's a little, I don't know, closed-minded. I mean, I get you probably liked this game as a kid, but isn't it time we looked at it critically and made a fair analysis of how...
No!
To also be fair... Okay, Kid Josh thought Ocarina of Time was dope. Adult Josh still thinks Ocarina of Time is dope. So, like, let's not say that it's just an adult vision type thing that's making us like Ocarina. Okay, let's not be that. Let's not go that direction.
Okay, ask anybody about Zelda. Anyone can tell you what makes a Zelda game, and what a game needs to be a Zelda game. But is that description you'll get really what describes a Zelda game at its core? Is it possible that following this formula might actually be missing the entire point of what makes Zelda awesome? Or even what makes a sequel awesome? I mean,
no!
Where you swing a fucking sword at some pigs or whatever.
This fucking idiot. This maroon. This guy doesn't even know. He didn't even know when he made this video on July 1st, 2014. This idiot didn't know that Breath of the Wild was going to come out and be amazing. And be exactly what Aaron wants from a Zelda game. How dare he not see the future 3 years out? If he'd only waited. What a chump. What a chump not being able to see the future.
Bombs, triangles. Got 3 triangles. You win! In Zelda, you were an adventurer, and, well, seriously, that much wasn't even explained. You were just a green dude. Walk to a cave. Old dude goes, hey, take this. You're like, okay, it's a sword. You're swinging at monsters that shoot rocks and shit at you, and you have a great time killing them. You figure if there's a cave I get a sword in, there must be other caves to get other shit in, right? Maybe other swords? I don't know. This world's neat. Well, that's Zelda. And whether or not Zelda is what it is now, that's how it started. And that's what sold a bazillion games. A trillion million games. Look at how many games there are. And
see, okay. I don't know if I think you can make a really good argument over, like, what makes a Zelda game. Because that's going to be, like, really subjective from person to person. So it's, like, a good topic of discussion. Like, what do you value in Zelda? So, like, for me, I really value, like, getting to, like, kind of role play as an adventurer and explore a world and stuff like that, whereas other people might really like the specific characters and, like, lore of Zelda. And like you can like different aspects of the series to different degrees, and like what makes it actually like defined as that series to you. So I think like I agree with where he's coming from there, where he's like, no, this is what Zelda is to me. But I think my problem is just that like he's saying it like a bit like matter-of-factly, like, no, this is actually what Zelda is. But also like his even if he was saying that and that's just like his opinion that this is what actual Zelda is, I think his reasoning for why that's the case is a bit wrong, because he's saying that like, oh, well, the very first Zelda game was so open-ended, and then Zelda's been so successful since, thus what the very first Zelda game is the reason that it sold all those copies, and like that makes it the true Zelda game. Like that argument doesn't really follow, I don't think. It's more so like because you could make the argument, if we're looking at like sales numbers, like you could say like Ocarina of Time or Link to the Past or these really successful games on like different consoles, like you could say that that's what made like the Zelda series a success. Like I don't think you should be just measuring like the very first of something as what entirely defines it. Although it's an important argument because it's like the original Star Wars movie. I feel like people look at that and it's like, that's what Star Wars is, because it was like initially what set the tone. But whenever we have like so many different kind of takes on Zelda like over the years, I think it's a bit reductive to say it like has to be this because the first one did this, and so everything else like owes everything to it.
Maybe other swords? I don't know.
Oh no.
This world's neat.
Where'd the singing
Zelda.
go?
And whether or not Zelda is
Okay.
what it is now, that's how it
We're
started.
almost
And that's
back
what
where we
sold a bazillion games. A trillion million games. Look at how many games there are. And
A lot of games.
Then eventually Link came out. Whatever. I don't care. And then A Link to the Past.
See, I'm not like a huge Zelda 2 guy, but like rest in pieces to anyone that likes Zelda 2 for this video. It's literally just like Zelda 2 happened and then ba-ba!
It was like the definitive Zelda, right? It felt like the first Zelda, but there was so much more. Bigger world, more things going on. It was nuts. My 8-year-old mind couldn't take it. Was I 8? I don't remember. But still, it changed a lot of things. This guy, Link, was given a name and a purpose. Rescue the princess. Save Hyrule. You have an uncle. I don't know what his name is. He dies. In Link to the Past, you start out in a house. You're forced to head up, sneak into a castle, fight some guards, rescue a princess, and bring her through an underground tunnel to some church or whatever, so you can finally go out, have your world to enjoy. Okay, cool. But okay, you want me to talk to some old lady? Okay, then what? Oh, find some kid who knows about where some old dude is? Okay, so here's the old dude? Okay, so go into this temple? Okay, beat the temple? Okay, listen, I'm not your fucking servant. Why do you give me this world to explore and have a good...
All right. Okay. It's a Space Jam. I don't think you can call like Link to the Past like super hand-holdy. Cause it's not like you can't go out and like do like other stuff while all this is going on. And you also don't really even need to do all of the things he just listed. Like, God, I'm not trying to do this like, haha, if you're actually an expert of the game, you don't even have to follow the direction. It's not like, I'm not saying that. Because like Ocarina of Time, I can play a lot more freeform than like someone on their first playthrough would, just because like I know what I'm doing and I know like the quickest route to do things. So I can kind of like fudge the order and stuff because I overall know what's happening. But I think like Link to the Past isn't that divorced from the original Legend of Zelda, because it's still like a big world, which yes, it limits you to some of it, but there's still a large area to explore. And like you can just go stumble across like that first dungeon and stuff. Like you don't have to do like the whole like itsy bitsy like guy in the church tells you, I heard the rumor in Kakariko, and you go to Kakariko, and then like you do something there, and then they tell you to go to the kid, and the kid, like, you don't have to do all that stuff. You can just find like the other dungeon. So like there is like the offer kind of a helping hand, but they never ever like force it or like show you like do a camera pan like, oh, go this way. Like it's just like it's honestly just kind of better world building that like people kind of know what's going on, and if you're asking about a topic, they'll tell you what's like relevant to it. So like yeah, I just like I definitely get like obviously Link to the Past is more linear than the original Zelda, but I don't know if that's a really good example like the opening because it is like more so like just people will tell you stuff about the world that is relevant to like what you're looking for if you're paying attention to the story. But also like I don't know, as a kid like I feel like I just spammed through most of these like text boxes and just like walked around until I found stuff, which is exactly like what supposedly is like so great about the first Zelda game. So like I think it's I think it's closer than is being led on. Closer.
You enjoy. Okay, cool. But okay, you want me to talk to some old lady? Okay, then what? Oh, find some kid who knows about where some old dude is? Okay, so here's the old dude. Okay, so go into the
yeah,
temple.
like I think
okay,
you can like
okay,
I literally think you can just go to the dungeon. Like you could just stumble your way over there. Because there's nothing you're actually needing. It's just you can follow a chain of information to lead you to that dungeon. Which I don't think that's a bad thing. And like you can like I think like obviously Breath of the Wild has a really like open like beginning and stuff that Egoraptor like really likes. Like man, like Breath of the Wild feels like the developers watched this video and were like, yeah, we'd like a more open-ended Zelda too. Because there is a lot of really good aspects to that. But yeah, I feel like just laying down this trail of information you can choose to follow or choose to ignore, I don't think that necessarily is like restricting freedom to the player. I think that's giving you like another option. Also, thank you, Rubrina, for the 42 months. Super appreciated. And Cobra for the 66 months. 600 more to go. And then we going to hell together, baby. I'm so excited. All right, let's continue. We are 2 minutes and 20 seconds in. And I'm not sure how long into this breakdown we are, but we're gonna keep going.
Not your fucking servant? Why do you give me this world to explore and have a good time in, and then you tell me to do these super specific things? You don't throw a 6-year-old into a sandbox and say, hey, you can only make poopy castles. You know when you take wet sand and you just let it drip on top of a pile of sand? It's a poopy castle. I mean, exploration still exists in Link to the Past, and God knows it's required to beat it. But if a game is telling you to do specific things with marks on a map and a sequence of which things to do and specific instructions, you're not discovering a world. You're being taken on a tour. You're no longer a pioneer adventurer, you're a guest at Disneyland. Here's
Me, trying to think of smart game design thing to say. Looks at chat. I used to make poopy castles. Complete break of thought process. Oh, we love doing this shit live. Again, like, this is like kind of valid criticism of later Zelda games, but again, I just don't think it applies to Link to the Past that much. Like, honestly, like, there is a certain... Okay. Like, there is... Oh, ah!
Oh, sorry. I didn't think it would scare you.
No, I was checking to see if, like, the door was, like, too open or I was being too loud.
Oh,
Laura and Maya were just in the doorway. Oh, pizza.
He, so.
Want to come see us?
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Stinky boy. Hello, sir.
Continue ranting, I'm sorry.
How's it going?
Didn't mean to scare
No, it's okay. Here comes the boy. Go see mom. So that is Pixel, one of our other cats. Also known as the Stinky Boy. Ugh. Okay. What were we saying? Oh yeah, like I feel like this is like valid criticism of later Zelda games, but I don't think it applies to Link to the Past, because Link to the Past, like the opening 3 dungeons you need to do in a specific order, but that's like honestly kind of like teaching you stuff, and like, and yeah, like all the later dungeons you can do in a pretty like out there order. There is the suggestion of like the numbered order, but I feel like all of these like things that he's viewing as restrictions at the start of this video were more so just like game designers realizing like what power they had to kind of like mold the situation a bit more. So like if we're using the sandcastle like analogy, the original Legend of Zelda would just be throwing a child onto an empty beach, which is fun. The kid's gonna have a good time, but Link to the Past would be like throwing a child into an actual sandbox, because there's like a little bit more structure, but they still got the freedom to do stuff, and also your child is not gonna drown in the ocean. This is not a good analogy anymore because we've involved kid death, but yeah. Okay, let's continue with this.
Ticket. Be sure to check out Space Mountain Indiana Jones before you leave. Yes, Goofies, wait! Win a prize!
120 pounds?
No.
It's
It's
too
too
low.
The
low.
whole game, it feels a bit more processed. It feels a bit more planned. You have a mission, and the mission is laid out for you. And that kind of thing is fun.
I'll let him-
I mean,
I'll let him
I go to
finish.
Disneyland like 6 times a year. I fucking love the Blue Bayou restaurant. They got great food. Oh! That's a little pricey. But you know what, it's worth it. But Zelda, from its roots, it's not the kind of game that holds your hand. There's no explanation or even really like a goal, but there's adversity everywhere, and you can approach it anytime you want, whether you're prepared or not. You run the real risk of facing off against something that will kill you in a fucking second. It's fucking awesome! But if you look at A Link to the Past and The Legend of Zelda from a surface level, they seem the same. There's a bunch of dungeons you get items for. Bombs, triangles, boomerangs, oh my! With bosses and a final fight with a giant pig man, there's a big world with caves and bushes. But it's not the same. There's a shift in soul, a difference in how you perceive and experience the world. Is it better? Is it worse? I don't fucking know. But it's not the same! Oh my god, look at...
Okay. So like this part I more agree with. Like I don't think I agree with him framing like how restrictive Link to the Past is. But like you can definitely agree with the idea that like it was like it more like solidified a certain direction to go from that starting point of the original Zelda. Like it was making a choice of where they wanted Zelda games to go, and it was in a different direction than that open-endedness could have potentially been taken. Which is honestly, we can kind of like see that even clearer now that Breath of the Wild kind of was like a spiritual like do-over of the original like Legend of Zelda, like opening like with old man in the cave and like not much direction at the very start. Like obviously a lot more modernized, but yeah, I do agree with him like here where I do agree with him here. Especially like I like the fact that he says, is it better or worse? Like, I don't know. Like I like whenever he's not like being objective with like this is the right direction for Zelda or anything, because again, like I'm a friggin' hippie, but like I do agree in the like it's all our perspectives on Zelda are cool, man. So yeah, I'm a bit more on board with what he's saying right here. And now we're gonna get into him talking about my favorite game. Let's get into it.
Yeah. The clouds are parting, and the heavens are sending us a message from above. Our eyes squint and adjust to the heavenly glow when we finally can understand what it says. Hey! There's a 3D Zelda coming out! Oh my god. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. It's a game considered by most to be a masterpiece. A 3D world with delicious sound and amazing graphics. At the time, each dungeon and each town feels unique and has its own energy to it. We
Yeah,
were
they
fucking
do.
floored. It was so epic. This
Yeah,
is what
it
felt
was.
like gaming was leading up to. It felt like
Yeah,
a
it
natural
did.
progression. It felt like witnessing a fish grow legs. But not that one. That's really gross. So now
I know some fish with legs in Zelda. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Oh, some nice legs. Talking about King Zora, you pervs. Okay? Alrighty. Weep, 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 weep. I just tried to click the play button again from my stream preview. Your boy has not done drugs.
we have this 3D world, and it felt like that was what made the difference. But what exactly was different? Well, in order to examine that, we have to examine dreaded transition from the second dimension to the third dimension. If we learn anything from Sonic the Hedgehog over here, it's that turning a 2D game into a 3D game, it ain't easy. It ain't even fucking quantifiable. How do you take the simplicity of form that 2D allows, give it a Z-axis?
I don't know.
Changes.
How
It
do
seems
we?
to turn a really good game
We
design
still haven't
into a
figured it out.
completely fucking broken one. Oh god. Oh my god. Timmy, don't look. Just look at that. Just look at. I mean, but Zelda, that one's not too hard. It already technically.
I feel. I can't say shit. I can't say shit because I was also one of the people just busting on Sonic constantly in the 2010s. But like, do you think we went a bit hard? Do we have to atone for our sins at some point? All the fucking 3D Sonic jokes I've made in my life. Am I part of the problem? Am I part of the solution? I don't know anymore. Oh, dear. Wait, is that like an actual controversy that like the Sequelitis Sonic footage isn't legit or something? Is that like some deep Rant Grumps lore I'm not in on? Okay. That's like kind of iffy if it's like an actual or like if he's doing like a Sonic Adventure reviews and stuff, but like we've done some for jokes in a Zelda video, that's fine, but that is messed up if he's doing Sonic critiques with the same footage. Oh god. The deep Sonic lore. Okay, let's keep going.
Has 3 dimensions. You got the y-axis, the x-axis, but you know, you could go upstairs, enemies could jump over you, all that stuff. Well, that's where the differences start. See, Link to the Past had a selective z-axis. For example, you couldn't be on the second floor and attack a dude on the first floor, but if the sandworm boss soared over your head and you weren't harmed by it, you could still swing at it and it'd register a hit. Bats fly through the air, but they're always conveniently at sword's height. That shit.
I fucking love when YouTubers explain game design shit to me. This isn't a sarcastic bit. I'm not saying for people not to do it. I legitimately just enjoy whenever people just like break down like this shit's good for this reason because it does this and the Z-axis. I'm Canadian. I'll say Z-axis all I want, but I genuinely just love that. Like, Link to the Past used the Z-axis in incredible ways, and that's really freaking clever.
It's asinine in 3D, which ironically in this situation is a limitation of the medium. The more specific you get about situations analogous to reality, the more you have to stipulate on. You can't hit a bat from any Z-axis position distance. Now it's really clear where the bats are in 3D space. They're up, down, every fucking where. And aiming your sword would be retarded.
Percy, why?
I see you there, Lumen. Dude, man, I'm sorry, I'm just curious. So what do we gotta do to
back
remedy
to
this Z-axis
2014
problem? Ladies and
words.
gents, I present you Z-targeting. Pesky bats flying from every which way, trying to circle around a Stalfos without losing track of where it is relative to you. Have I got a treat for you? Just press the Z button and lock onto the nearest baddie and have a go with your mighty sword device. Check it out. Z-targeting made combat complicated. And that's not a bad thing. No more simple point and swing stuff here, folks. You gotta lock on, focus on the fight. This is a gigantic difference, and it makes combat complex. I don't say this a lot, but let's see how this is a good thing. A new method of combat means new ways to go about designing enemies in combat situations. You used to just point and hit and run.
What the fuck, man?
But now, there's rolling, dodging, stabbing, swinging, leaping. Holy shit! So complex. So many possibilities. It's so deep they can make an entire game based on the combat system. But guess what? They didn't. Here's how this is a poopy bad thing. Z-targeting creates a strange disconnect from the world around you. It changes the camera angle from what you're used to exploring the world in, and that shifts your entire focus and outlook. It segments the game into two pieces. This is the combat piece, this is the world exploring piece. They don't mix. Put them in a room together, they get into an argument.
Hey, fuck you. Hey, fuck you too.
Dude, guys, can't we just get along?
What do you think this is? Link to the Past?
Like the man says, in the old Zelda games, those two pieces were linked. There were segments where you had to fight off enemies and explore the rooms simultaneously. It was much easier to manage it all, and now it's complicated and puts you in an unfair situation. What the f...
I mean, okay. So this is one of the like main complaints I see get like thrown out about this video is just how Egoraptor seems to like understand the combat in this game, and then people loving to like compare that to like Game Grumps playthroughs and stuff. And so I'm gonna be right up front about this. As someone that does video game content creation and stuff like that, I am never, ever, 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 no matter how bad it is, no matter how soul-crushingly hurtful it is to watch, I am never, ever going to insult someone's gameplay during a Let's Play, a stream, or any sort of situation where they're being knowingly recorded. There's just something, I don't know if it's Let's Player brain, but like, just everything's different when you're on camera or being recorded or everything. Everything's different. You have so much more to like think of. So like, I'm not going to judge any of these arguments like based on like Game Grumps gameplay and stuff like that. It makes really funny meme compilations, but like, I don't think it's good for actually like using as an argument against anything that like Aaron's saying here. So yeah, I just wanted to like throw that out there in case anyone, because that's usually what comes up. And yeah, and that's also the other thing. It's just not nice to insult someone's gameplay in general. I love video games. I'm bad at video games. There are millions of us out there. So be kind to the bad gamers in your life. And hey, Fred, it's good to see you again.
What the heck was that all about?
Z-targeting also puts a damper on throwaway enemies like bats, who were fun to kill in previous Zeldas, but are now a pain in the goddamn ass since you have to individually focus on each one and precisely hit them. It'd be like if you...
So, I don't know. This is one where I'm actually going to like kind of ask chat as well. Like, is there any 3D game that like solves this issue if you have like a really strict... Because Egoraptor's problem seems to be is that, yes, in a top-down like 2D game like Link to the Past, you can have the combat and like the exploration like all kind of weave together really really seamlessly, because like you always have the same camera perspective and you always kind of have that like upper look, and because it's 2D, like that camera angle of looking straight down, you only move on the X and Y and occasionally on the Z axis, very occasionally. Whereas with 3D, if you have a camera that's constantly moving, like it becomes so much more difficult to have a camera that's always going to be useful for the situation. So like Z targeting is really, really intended like so that you can do good combat, because now the camera's focusing on your enemy. You can orient yourself around that. So I'm just trying to think of like, has there been more modern games like since that have found like, is there a secret camera angle for like 3D games to have that will fix this problem? Or is this more just like an inherent difference in how you would have to design 2D and 3D games, and not so much an issue with like Ocarina of Time? Okay, that's actually a really good response in chat. Yeah, first person, like that does have like that has the completely consistent kind of camera angle. You're in control of it, but like that, you the player are the camera. Like that's literally the definition of first person. So that seemed, yeah, like a first person game kind of does have a, it doesn't solve the issue, but it's a different approach, yeah. And yeah, exactly. It's not a be-all, end-all solution. Like, if you're making a first-person game, you need to commit to that. And that needs to be, like, one of the very first design decisions you would make, I would imagine. Something as huge and as impactful as that. But I guess, yeah, I was trying to think of, like, is there a different way to do it other than like this lock-on system that a lot of action games like still use, like some variation of like this type of thing? Or someone said the Arkham games, there is a tendency for well, even then, like I guess it depends on whether you're doing, God, I need to replay the Arkham games, because there is the verticality of like the stealth sections and stuff, but I guess that still uses kind of like the aiming and targeting stuff as well. Ghost of Tsushima does not have great lock-on. It's kind of clunky. I actually really like that about Ghost of Tsushima, because with Ghost of Tsushima, I think they deliberately didn't have a lock-on. I think there's a lock-on in the game now, like with the director's cut, but originally it didn't release with one, because a lot of that game's combat is focused on manually having to move the camera and keep track of where the enemies are. So they use, in Ghost of Tsushima, they use that kind of limitation as like a deliberate choice. But it still is like that. Yeah, it's just a lot harder to kind of have the same like camera focus for exploration and combat like in a 3D game, I guess. Whoa, Eagle, thank you so much for the raid. So appreciated. We are currently reacting to Egoraptor's Sequelitis on The Legend of Zelda, so I hope y'all had fun at Eagle Stream, and I hope you're ready for some game design talk over here. All right, let us continue. And hello, all the first-time viewers.
Wanted to kill a bunch of ants in your house by stomping on them, but instead of doing that, you pointed a slingshot at each one individually. Now, okay, on the flip side, complicated enemies are a total joy to fight, but the issue then comes up of how they're even designed. Okay, so as I mentioned before, a lot of the charm from the original Zelda was how ruthless the game was, and a complex fighting system would be perfect place to implement that. But the source of a lot of Ocarina's problems is that the game's idea of difficulty is waiting. There is so much goddamn waiting in Ocarina. Every enemy has a period where they just stand around and do fucking nothing, and attacking them during this time is useless. Deku Scrubs, Stalfos, Lizardmen, Skulltulas, Wolf Dudes, Gerudos, Clams? Waiting is not a difficult thing to do, but it creates the illusion of difficulty because it takes up your time. And that's all it does. A fight feels like an ordeal when you have to devote a decent amount of time to it, but it's not hard. Just look at Final Fantasy IX, Skies of Arcadia, Grandia. These long-ass battles, not hard, but they feel like there's something. This is a mindless interaction, and you're simply going through the motions instead of strategizing. Wait, attack, wait, attack, wait. It's not very hard to do, and it's difficult to mess up. This style of enemy isn't inherently bad. I mean, it creates an interesting player-enemy relationship where the enemy's controlling the pace of the battle, but the fact that it's a consistent theme in enemies gives the impression that it's used as a difficulty supplement, since none of these enemies are actually difficult to fight. Now, on the flip side, Ocarina has the coolest enemy ever, the Iron...
Alright. Is this a good interjection point? Just while the Gerudo lady's waiting on the screen. This is one where it's hard for me to be like objective on, because I've played way too much of Ocarina of Time. I've played that randomizer so much, and so from my experience as someone that is like beating this game like dozens upon dozens of times by now, I hear this section and I'm like, you could beat half those enemies without waiting. There is stuff in your arsenal you can be doing. All of them have things you can use to stun them, get in a quick attack, do a more powerful attack. There's a lot of ways to deal with this stuff other than waiting. That being said, if someone is playing the game and they're getting that impression, like I don't think Ocarina of Time itself emphasizes enough how effective some of the items are for dealing with these enemies. Like how like essential Deku nuts are, that Deku sticks are so much more powerful than like the child sword. Like the game doesn't outright like explain a lot of the stuff to you or how useful these will be against enemies. But so if it did explain that, maybe then more people would know that the combat like isn't so waiting focused. But also, I thought we didn't want our Zelda games to be hand-holding us so much, so I don't know about this one. But I will say though, I think the observation of enemies being in control of the pace of a battle a lot of the time, I think that is a good observation about Ocarina of Time. I don't think it's bad, because I think it's more just interesting and how they decided to design things. When you're focusing the camera on an enemy with Z targeting, you're focused on them, so you're waiting for your chance to dodge and your chance to get an attack in, and like that amount of like that style of combat, this doesn't count as comparing everything to Dark Souls, because I'm saying that this inspired Dark Souls, not Dark Souls inspiring something else. I'm like, that style of combat's still like very common in like FromSoft games and everything like that. So like obviously like waiting for an opening and stuff is not a bad source of design. And I think Aaron's just a bit like, just didn't experiment enough with some items, and thus like had a lot of waiting time during his playthrough of the game and stuff like that. One more cough for good measure. Just for good measure. And okay, so I'm not gonna delve in myself like super like because again like oh sorry about that. I keep getting like randomly stuffed up. Yeah, I'm not gonna be making attacks on like Egoraptor's like gameplay or any of that sort of stuff. That aspect of like criticizing or like talking about this video doesn't interest me. Like I genuinely just want to talk about the video and like yeah, just talk about it, not like be super harsh on it or anything like that. But someone said someone said in the chat that he's cherry picking evidence and stuff like that. And as someone that like has done a lot of like game design essays and stuff when I used to do a lot of really freaking clevers, like you're always going to have to cherry pick some stuff because like when you get a thesis, hopefully you have some like examples that'll support it. And so of course you want to give those examples. So you're not going to give the examples that like might not like that are only like kind of there. So I'm not like gonna shit on anyone for like cherry picking because kind of everyone has to do that when making an essay. But it does like kind of suck whenever like there's examples they don't give that like directly contradict what they're saying in like such a massive way that it's like, oh, like that really, you should have mentioned that as well. So let's get back into this.
Iron Knuckle. It's an enemy that is actually provoked to attack and also to be vulnerable by your own attack, which makes the pace of the battle completely dictated by you and your ability to fight it. Additionally, the nature of his attack pattern requires you to be aware of your surroundings. You can lure him to attack pillars, which yield hearts to replenish your life, which is another layer of depth to the battle. This is the kind of enemy design Ocarina needed so much more.
It's a really good enemy.
Merging
I will say that.
combat and world, where you are still very aware of your surrounding in each set piece, even during combat. And the world around you affects your combat.
Yeah, like all of this stuff, like I super agree with. Like just the Iron Knuckle fights are like legit some of my favorite parts of like every 3D Zelda game. They're just a really fun mini boss design. So obviously yeah, like it's obviously a good mini boss design because they keep reusing it in the series.
I feel that this particular battle shows how Ocarina could have had an even better combat world connection than Link to the Past or even the original Zelda, but chose to save it only for mini bosses and some boss battles. Could have been every enemy.
Could it have been every enemy though? Cause like the Iron Knuckles fights are like so good because they are mini boss fights. Like they have specially designed arenas for like every time you fight them. So like I'm sure you could come up with like more enemy designs that like were a bit more like interactive or like reacted to whenever Link would like slash them. But like having like every single enemy like interacting with the environment that much, like I don't know how you would do that, especially during like the N64 era and stuff like that. God, I don't want to keep like referencing Dark Souls because that's like the friggin' you're not supposed to do that as a content creator. Never ever talk about Dark Souls. But yeah, like I feel like the FromSoft games with like the ragdolls and how much destructible stuff is in the environments kind of actually go in that direction and kind of like scratch that itch of making the fights feel like they take place like in the world and like affect the world. And this video came out even before like Dark Souls 3, so like maybe FromSoft was watching too. New mod idea, Ocarina of Time, but it's all Iron Knuckle. See, there we go. Perfect video game right there.
In any case, the nature of Z targeting forced Zelda to be more combat-centric, and with it, the world was forced to change, but it didn't. You still push blocks, only now you can't push them when you're engaged in combat, and you still open doors by shooting slingshots at eyeballs in the wall. Is that a puzzle? Like seriously, is that a puzzle? Is looking around the room and finding an eyeball on a wall really super fun for people? Like, the game is 3D now, so everything isn't laid out before.
I don't get the anger. Like, it's okay, like it's okay to or I don't know. maybe I'm just like too sensitive or something, but that seems like that's something that's funny to like comment on, like that's weird, like just like for Ganon to hide like an eyeball in the room for you to shoot it. Like, it's a weird thing to comment on, but the fact that it's like kind of like angry, like, is this a puzzle? Is this enough for you people? Like, I don't get the intensity on that, because like I don't think they're trying to be like Breath of the Wild shrine type like puzzles, which I can't believe like how much, like, I haven't watched this video since Breath of the Wild comes out, but like Breath of the Wild legit feels kind of like a response to like everything that's kind of being said here, like, because yeah, I would say like all the shrines are probably more in the like puzzly direction that Egoraptor's wanting, even though they are like really segmented from the overworld, the way that the shrines work. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think you should take ice switches so personally, you know? But also, and like, to be clear, this is a 7-year-old video. Like, I am a completely different person than I was 7 years ago. Ocarina of Time is a completely different game than it was 7 years ago. And everyone's probably like has much different feelings on game design now or something.
Or you like a map anymore. So I get that there's this sense that you walk into a room and aren't getting all the information about the room right away, but is stopping your forward motion, stopping everything to look for a diamond to whack that's in a soulless crevice in the wall so you can open a door that leads to another room with a locked door and some other silly open sesame trick? Is that fun? Is this what you want? Hey, come on, man, it's not that bad. Shh, Skyward Sword. Seriously, I'm doing like a show. I know, I just figured I'd give me 2 cents. I don't care. Nobody likes you. You took fun and made it unfun. How'd you even do that? Maybe I should go douse for a better game, huh? Hey man, that's low. So's my interest in playing you again. Oh shit! Burn!
It's so weird, like, watching gaming content from like so long ago. Just like how the cycles of like Zelda games like change. Just like, because this was like 3 years ago, or like this was 3 years after Skyward Sword had like come out, so like people weren't like people didn't dislike it yet, but like I feel like this video kind of kicked off like some dislike for Skyward Sword. Yeah, it's very hostile. This is just how video, like, I made a series called 64 Things Wrong. I can't call anything like too hostile or anything. But yeah, it's just very interesting that like people are like you wouldn't say this about Skyward Sword these days. You just wouldn't, man. Oh dear.
Burn! So I'm
Burn!
really proud of what I've done today. Plus, I really hate you. Alright, let me explain something. A puzzle is something you have all the information for. The only thing standing between you and the solution is your own ability to put the pieces together in the right way. The satisfaction you obtain from solving a puzzle is from the aha moment, when the pieces fit and you have only yourself to blame for it. If you're missing a piece, how are you supposed to even get to a conclusion? You rack your brain, run in circles, go, what do I fucking do? Until you find the last piece on a whim, and suddenly it all makes sense. You say, well, shit! Or, come on! The satisfaction doesn't come from the door opening, it comes from the puzzle itself. If the puzzle itself isn't satisfying, well, there you go. The puzzle itself isn't satisfying. You see, in the original Zelda, you'd walk into a room, the doors would lock, but 5 cape horse sword dude looking guys who are fucking hard as shit surround you. They follow you around. When they see you, you can only attack them from the sides or the back. You gotta find vantage points, ins, outs, manage your health, dodge them when they gang up. It's daunting. It's interesting. It engages you. And it's really easy to understand. And because of all this, it's satisfying when you beat them. A door opening is like, oh, okay, cool, the door opened. You're not like, fucking finally the door. But look, that's not to say puzzles or whatever can't exist in Ocarina of Time's combats. And
yeah, it's like, you can make an argument, like you can have discussions on like how puzzle design is going to change between 2D and 3D. Because again, he was talking about how in like the original Legend of Zelda, like the door locks and like a puzzle is when you have all the pieces in front of you and you just need to figure out how to do it. And obviously that's going to be a lot easier whenever your camera, like your vantage point in the original Zelda is always just like the one room or whatever. So, or like, so yeah, like you always can see all the pieces, but 3D just inherently, like you can't do that. Like you can't get all of the info at once. So like the eyeball, like shooting the eyeball puzzle is you gathering all the information in the room and being like, oh, I need to hit that thing. And like other than the first few times you do it, it's usually not just like find the eyeball in the corner and shoot that. Like that's not the puzzle. Usually it's like, oh, how do I get a flame in front of that eyeball so the next time I shoot it with an arrow, it'll melt the ice on it and it'll actually hit it. Like usually there is more to it than just finding it. So it's like you still are finding all the pieces to a puzzle. You just don't have them like immediately in front of your eyeballs, like whenever you enter a room. And yeah, also like chat pointed it out a bunch, but like his example of a really great puzzle in Zelda 1 was just one of those rooms where you kill all the enemies, which like all the other Zeldas do that too. Like they're not like necessarily bad points, but like it's like bad examples to like kind of further the points, or at least like not the examples that would best kind of describe that. I don't know. Shy Guy Kai, thank you for the 31 months with Twitch Prime. Percy, thank you for hitting the search function on my keyboard. Look at this cat. Look at that cat. What a weirdo. Okay. We are still not even halfway through this video. I apologize. It's gonna be like a 2-hour YouTube video or something.
Universe. But sliding spiked death pucks coming out from around the corner you can't see is just bad fucking design. It's bad.
All right. Someone that's had to do these rooms a lot of time for randomizers. I'm not gonna say shit. Sometimes I've gotten really pissed off at those things too. If he had to play this game a lot to get footage, I'm gonna let this one slide. Those things coming out from I'm not gonna blame the game for this, but I'm not gonna get upset at him for being upset about them. Because those things can still be bullshit. I'll just let this one slide, okay?
Design any games. No different in Zelda. You don't get a get out jail free card. You gotta roll 3 times. In the first Zelda, you see that shit. In Link to the Past, you see that shit. In Ocarina, oops. Yeah, I know. That's the nature of 3D. But if it doesn't work,
That was just what I was about to say. Percy, you're in the way. Percy, I gotta talk about Egoraptor. Yeah, no, I was okay. Let's go back. What's his argument to my argument before I even argued it?
Ocarina, oops. Yeah, I know. That's the nature of 3D. But if it doesn't work in 3D, you change it. If the formula doesn't work, you change the formula. Why do I gotta leap across these platforms? There's no challenge here. I hold the joystick up. Just because the scenario's treacherous doesn't mean the game is actually treacherous. I could have just walked forward in a straight line. Heck, I can close my eyes here and do this. Is that treacherous? Can I just close my eyes and shoot at terrorist insurgents and be like, oh, I'm fucking fine? Hey, or better yet, how about some nice interesting combat scenario here on these platforms, huh? Like some kind of enemy that'll circle around you and you just gotta time your jump across, or like block his path with a bomb or something. Or like, how about an enemy you have to slash at enough to knock it off the edge? But when you slash him, he also kind of slashes and knocks you back like another well-designed enemy in some other fucking game. I just made that up. I didn't even, and it exists in a good Zelda game. Oh man, enemies in a good Zelda game? Are you talking about me? No, I'm not talking about you. Get out of my house. Go. I can't be too hard on Sky.
Okay. Where do we start? Where do we okay, so someone in the chat said this is one argument that Aaron has actually commented on. He admits this argument sucked. He admitted he ignored object permanence. Good on him. No, I'm not saying that if he hadn't done that, that would be bad. But like, as someone that like also has done like game design videos, as I said before, I know like you want like to push forward your argument and stuff like that, and sometimes like you don't like you need one more example, or just like on reflection you're like, no, I hadn't thought about this from this angle and stuff like that, or it's just something where you get like caught up and you're like, oh yes, this like also proves my point, and then like when you think about it a bit more, it's like, oh, I guess like you could see it that way too. So like I respect that that there is like reflection and stuff like that. Not that he's like obligated to have to change like any like Zelda takes or anything like that, but just like that's something that I do where I'm like, shit, like this argument in this video like wasn't as good. So like it's good to hear that other people do that. Yeah, let us continue.
Skyward Sword. It at least made bombs bearable to use. You throw a bomb and Link to the Past in 4 directions: left, right, up, down. In Ocarina, you have infinity directions. You also have a really vague idea of where it's gonna land, especially if you're throwing up or down in different elevations. There's so much room for error, it's fucking unreal. Z-targeting helps, but what if there are enemies around you don't want to target onto? You just want to see straight. You just want to fucking throw a bomb! Skyward Sword added like a throw arc, but it also added bomb bowling. Bomb bowling. It added bomb bowling. Skyward Sword added bomb bowling. It added bomb bowling. Yeah, okay, fuck Skyward Sword. It still handles treasure chests dumb, but to be fair...
Wait. What? Was the bit supposed to be that bomb bowling's bad? Bomb bowling's awesome. I don't even know if I can like explain and like give analysis on that. Just bomb bowling. Bomb bowling's freaking great, man. But I don't know, like I feel like that's a good aspect of Skyward Sword, is it gave you like multiple things to do with the bombs. It had multiple applications. It did the motion control thing well. Because like Skyward Sword is obviously trying to be like a more motion controlled Zelda, so if a game like utilizes that for actual purpose, like that seems like that'd be a good thing. Yeah, like a lot of these complaints, like a lot of it just seems to come with like 3D games in general, or just even like early 3D games. Like, yeah, eventually they like added the arc to like throwing bombs and stuff. That's like much better, but just that comes with time, I guess.
Ocarina started it. You know, okay, in each dungeon, Ocarina has a unique item in a regular old treasure chest. In each dungeon, it just kind of shows up after a random battle with some enemies. Link to the Past had a giant fucking treasure chest that needed a big key to open. The big key also opened the door to the boss. There's like a genuine giddiness to finding a treasure with such a huge implication to it. The big key not only gives me amazing new treasure, but also allows me to face off against an incredible boss. The time it takes me to get back to the big treasure is like the most fucking suspenseful thing ever. It's like running downstairs to get the presents under the Christmas tree, or menorah, or like whatever. Birthday tree. I often hear that this is a minor point, but it creates an emotional through line for a dungeon. It establishes an important, consistent relationship with the player and the dungeon. It creates goals. It creates expectation. It creates a good fucking game. A treasure chest in and of itself is a mystery and a sense of suspense. The original Zelda didn't have chests. It just had like new items sitting at the end of like a long hallway that built up tension. It gave you time to wonder about what it was and how it worked. Link to the Past added chests, which was another means to the same goal, you know, building suspense. It's a fucking secret box. You see a present and you're like, oh god, I want to open it. Simply walking to the chest is all the suspense you need. When you arrive, the payoff is instant. It opens right away when you hit the button. It shows what it is, done. I know, it may not appear epic, and it may seem kind of silly and video gamey, but the feeling of suspense is real and very valid. Ocarina decided to add in bullshit. Link opens up the treasure chest all like, what the fuck is this? Oh my god, I'm amazed! Who cares that he's amazed? I want to be amazed. Just show the fucking treasure already. I beat the dudes blocking it. I climbed the ladder or whatever and got here. Why do I gotta wait? Just cause the game...
I don't know where I can begin to start to try to feel like I have a chance of... How do you not like the Zelda opening thingy? Okay, like I do... Like he is pointing out like a valid difference in that the suspense in Link to the Past is that you see the chest, you walk up to it, or like getting to it is the suspense. They don't need like the... Like they didn't need that in Link to the Past because they're doing like a different angle on it. Whereas Ocarina of Time, like most of the chests, with the exception of like he showed Deku Tree as like an example of it being like just out in the open, but that's like the first dungeon. Like most of them are behind like mini bosses and things like that. So it's a reward for like a combat situation or like a reward for something happening. And so usually they have the chest like just spawn in, and again because it's 3D, you're not seeing the entire room. You can't really have like that big epic like walk up to something unless you're Fire Temple, in which case you get the best of both worlds, baby. So you do that run up to the big flaming chest and everything. But yeah, it's just like it's two different approaches, but I don't think one's like objectively good and one's objectively bad. Like it seems like for Ocarina of Time they decided that mini bosses were going to be a more consistent element in the dungeons, and so they made it a consistent element that the mini boss usually gives you the chest, and so they just went a different route with it and like had a different way of building that suspense. So he likes how Link to the Past builds suspense, but he doesn't... What did I just do? Was that my light? I'm gonna get murdered! Ah! Light! Come back! Light! No! Ah! There we go. We're back. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Yeah, what was I just saying? It was basically just like they build suspense in different ways, and he's just really against the way Ocarina of Time does it, I guess. Which is fine. Like you can have a preference. It just seems like they both do have like similar goals. They're just going about them in different ways, and I think it's valid. Like it's obviously a choice that was made. It's not like Ocarina of Time is trying to do the same thing as Link to the Past and just fulfilling it worse. I think it's just doing it in a different way that's gelling less with Egoraptor. Oh, that's awesome, Emmy. Congrats. And hey, Verch. Oh, Percy has a belly that's always filled with jelly. Let's give Percy some belly rubs. Y'all have been being a great audience. You deserve some belly rubs from the purse. Look at that Bubbert boy. What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, Bob. Okay. Let's get back to the madness.
but the feeling of suspense is real and very valid. Ocarina decided to add in bullshit. Link opens up the treasure chest all like, what the fuck is this? Oh my god, I'm amazed. Who cares that he's amazed? I want to be amazed. Just show the fucking treasure already. I beat the dudes blocking it. I climbed the ladder or whatever and got here. Why do I gotta wait? Just because the game needs to be all epic and 3D whooshy whooshy because of all the graphics and polygons and all whatnot, I gotta wait like, look at how many chests I can open in that time. God, there's so much waiting in Ocarina. You gotta wait for a door to close. You gotta wait for a character to stop talking. You gotta wait for the dialogue box to tell you how to use bombs for the 47th goddamn time. Wait for the switch to make a music tone and open a door across the room. Wait for Link to go flying backwards and then get up off the ground. Wait for bombs to blow up. How fucking long does it take to switch between worlds? You gotta play the Prelude of Light. Say yes. Watch the cutscene. Walk up to the Master Sword plot. Watch the cutscene. Walk out of the Temple of Time. Play whatever song brings you the closest to where you want to go. Say yes. Watch the cutscene and walk all the way to where you want to be. In Link to the Past, you equip a mirror, press a button, you're there.
So that's not how transportation in Link to the Past works. That's just not an example that works. I thought he was going to do the flute thing, because if he used the flute as an example, like, Link to the Past actually does have a more efficient travel system than Ocarina of Time, because it's just the flute item and then the numbered locations. So he could have used that as the example, but that's just getting from like the dark world to the light world. Like, you can't just do that all the time, and that only like puts you between those two places, and that's like the main mechanic of the game. But then other than that, someone said in the chat, big argument is how pacing is broken up with chests, locked doors, etc. So do you think that Ocarina of Time is too cinematic? I guess that's the argument that he's making. Like, he doesn't like these cinematic touches that are detracting from the gameplay experience in his opinion, because he seems to really value like the gameplay and all the storytelling through the actual gameplay and stuff, which is valid and everything. And so I personally really love the cinematic elements of like Ocarina of Time. It's why it's one of my favorite games, because I think it strikes a really good balance between giving like the player control and making them feel like the hero, and then using those cinematic flourishes and that cinematic language to make you feel like the hero and like get you involved in the world of Hyrule and make you invested. And like there's so many different types of gamers and like what people value in games and like how they like their stories told. And obviously, like, from this video, like, Aaron prefers like the more gameplay stuff, and like that he's gone on the record, I guess, since saying that he really likes Breath of the Wild like more than most Zelda games for its gameplay. Whereas like the story and the world of Zelda and how it communicates that stuff through cinematic language, through music, not just through gameplay, that's like also super important to me and to a lot of people, which is I think why like this stuff is real have been like controversial comments. So yeah, I don't think it's like necessarily wrong, but I think he's just saying basically like there's a lot of cinematic stuff in Ocarina of Time, but I think like it was a very deliberate choice that they wanted to use those cinematic elements to try and tell their story in the way they wanted to better. So let us continue.
What the fuck am I doing with my life? I am harshly criticizing Ocarina of Time on the internet. I'm gonna get crucified! Waiting is the bane of exploration. Why would I want to explore in a world where I gotta waste useless time just to check a fucking room? You should never, ever, ever hit that point where you're like, I'll check that room later. In a game about checking rooms! I mean, you're exploring a world, right? And then they decide, hey, we're gonna streamline the dungeon process. Guess what? You enter a dungeon, halfway through, you get an item that helps you through the other half of the dungeon, and then you use that item on the boss to render it hittable, and then you hit it with a sword, typically in a pattern of 3 times. But that part can vary. Ladies and gentlemen, Please exit through the gift shop, try our Triforce shaped ice cream bars. Can you please tell me what about this world is interesting if I know before I even finish the dungeon what the boss battle's gonna be? Oh, I got a slingshot. Maybe I hit some big glowing object with a slingshot. Oh, a mirror shield that lets me reflect light at stuff. Maybe the boss is gonna be a dude that I gotta reflect light at. Look, I know you can argue that this is actually good game design, but a game where I'm adventuring and I'm supposed to be excited about what's to come, it's kind of hard to wonder wide-eyed about something that's so predictable. It hurts. Ooh, darn. Ooh, jeez, arg. And this, like,
yeah, like, I think it, like, honestly, I think it's just summed up when he said, like, you could argue this is good game design. Because, yeah, I like that. I would argue that. Yeah, I'd argue that. But no, like it's just like a difference of opinion, I guess, on like whether you like that aspect of Zelda. But like, I think that's such like a key thing by now. The like having items, and then those items are like related to how you progress in the dungeon. And then usually working on the boss, but not always. There is some bosses that break that pattern a little bit. Not too often, but... and Zelda games since have gotten a bit, like, more experimental with that. But yeah, I don't... Yeah, I think that's just, like, a really big difference in taste. I don't think there's any, like, real objective difference. Or, like, I don't think there's any objective problem with how Ocarina of Time does it. Is he trying to suggest that only using the sword would be better? I think he's trying to say that, like, items shouldn't be, like, only tied to their dungeon. Because, like, Twilight Princess, I feel like, did this a decent amount where, like, you would only use an item in a dungeon, like, just to beat the back half of the dungeon and the boss, and maybe, like, a couple pieces of heart in the overworld. So I guess he just wants it to be, like, less predictable with, like, you'll always beat the boss with the item you got in that dungeon. But, like, honestly, it, like, because the items usually open up, like, parts of the world as well, it's, like, the rest of the dungeon's, like, a tutorial for using that item, and then, like, you have that item in your inventory and the freedom to use it wherever. So, like, as he said, you could argue this is good game design, and I would argue that. I guess he just wanted something a bit less predictable or whatever, but I think it's, like, a really deliberate choice. I would kind of, like, it's kind of similar to saying, like, isn't it lame that every, like, Mario level, like, you slide all the way down the flagpole at the end? It's like, yeah, I guess it would keep you on your toes if you didn't slide all the way down the flagpole and there was, like, more level behind it sometimes, but, like, I think it's just, like, a staple of the series. So yeah, let's continue.
Streamlining process in Ocarina is present even outside the dungeons. Every little piece of this game is just hopping over some roadblock that needs you to do some specific thing to make it to the next roadblock. It's a game about jumping through hoops. Superman 64. Hey man, there's a closed door. Find the eye symbol, hit it with a slingshot. Another closed door. Find a key. Another closed door. Press a button. Another closed door. Give this dude a ladder from Impa. And again, look, there's some exploring, but a random secret cave in the ground isn't gonna lead you through a complex catacomb with a mini boss at the end. It just won't. It's not gonna happen. You'll fall, you'll get a treasure chest, go da-da-da-da, and fucking leave. They would not sacrifice their precious formula for a little bit of fun. Link to the Past had a little bit more variety. Sometimes
I don't... I don't get this 100%. It wasn't a precious formula, though. Like, this was the game that kind of, like, made that formula or really cemented it. Like, Link to the Past, like, pushed in this direction. Yeah, like, Ocarina... Yeah, that is, like, a complaint about Ocarina of Time is like, there's not any huge grottos. But, like, I guess they improved on that, like, in Majora's Mask onward and had, like, a lot more interesting stuff. So, yeah, that is like, an actual valid thing. I haven't thought too much about Ocarina of Time before. There's not, like, a huge amount of ambitious grottos or anything. But like, yeah, it's like I don't see this as like he's framing this right here as if Ocarina of Time was like being unambitious, like and was holding itself back. But I really don't think that's the case, and I think that's where like my main like kind of contention is that he's saying the like Ocarina of Time not being as open-ended as like Link to the Past. Or he's not even doing a lot of comparing to Link to the Past. This is honestly just like Ocarina of Time versus like the very original Zelda, and I guess now like some of Breath of the Wild's like kind of design highlights. So yeah, it's like these are would say that some of these are like more valid criticisms of like Twilight Princess, or as he's eventually going to get to, like Skyward Sword, whenever there was more of a Zelda formula. So like it's okay to, I guess, have those issues with like the direction the Zelda series was going, but like putting all that baggage on the very first game that was being really, really ambitious, just in like a slightly different direction than what you wanted, I just don't think it, yeah, like I don't think Ocarina of Time is too much more linear than like Link to the Past progression was. Like it's definitely a bit more, but I think it was still like very open-ended in other ways, and it was just narrowing its focus more because you couldn't have a 3D game like that open-ended and ambitious like on the N64 like at the time. Like yeah, you can't call the thing that invented the formula formulaic. I guess so, yeah. Yeah, like I kind of like I agree, or at least like see his perspective on some like criticisms of the Zelda series as a whole, but I don't know if they work towards like Ocarina of Time. And like I think that's what makes some of these claims like so controversial, is that he's like hammering home like really hard and like Ocarina of Time did this and like so much waiting and everything, when it's more like I guess criticisms he has on the direction the Zelda series like was going on at the point the video was made, and like when Skyward Sword was the most recent 3D game, which like I guess that's just a little disappointing that it's more so a response to like Skyward Sword's like style of Zelda than like actually like the beginning of 3D Zelda and how Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time like compared to one another. Does that make sense?
Sometimes the item you get in a dungeon isn't even a weapon. Sometimes the boss can be defeated with just the fucking sword. Sometimes the boss needs to be defeated with an item from a dungeon 2 dungeons ago. There's one boss that you have to beat him with an item that you don't even get in a dungeon. It still felt like an adventure. Like you had like this arsenal you've been collecting, and you're using it whenever it may be useful. And it may be useful anytime. You gotta be ready for that shit.
I do like that aspect of Link to the Past. I really like the wide variety of like combat items and stuff. So like that is a really good thing about Link to the Past. I agree with that.
The Legend of Zelda had some dinosaurs. There's a dinosaur. So look at that dinosaur. There's a fucking dinosaur right there. It's this kind of misdirection of like what you should care about in Zelda that really bugs me about Ocarina. Like, let's take its story for example. Ocarina's story provides you with a context to your quest. That accomplishing this will save this or change this, but it refuses to acknowledge the player's innate sense of wonder and drive to quest and fight. Players want to fight bosses. They want to be rewarded for their efforts. They want to enter a dungeon, see what's inside, and succeed against enemies. But you gotta put that feeling aside. There are more important matters at hand. The Sheikahs or the Hylians or whatever. Save the Hylians. Gorons don't have rocks to eat. That's why you gotta quest. Gorons gotta eat. The fuck are the Gorons? I don't even care. And then what we're left with is what feels like a formality. Dungeons with doors that need to be opened, bosses that are beaten in the same fucking manner every time. I think the idea...
This is a genuine question. Like, what is the alternative? Like, what is the alternative to having reasons for going into the dungeon? Because like you need to collect something at the end of the dungeon, so like I guess the spiritual stones or like or the medallions, but like, what is the harm in having like some world building and having characters comment on like what's going on in the world, and maybe giving you some extra like emotional incentive for also wanting to do the dungeons? Because you still like he's right, you do want to go in dungeons and you want to get new items and become more powerful and like progress from a gameplay perspective, but like, just what's the other option? Yeah, like what? Yeah, what's the other option of like not being given motivation or plot hooks? Like, just nobody comments on events, or like just nobody's involved with the stuff that goes on in the dungeons. Like, yeah, I'm not. I don't know like what the alternative would be. Because it's like I don't think it's like all this lore and like story is like distracting from anything. Yeah, I don't know.
Idea that you're told you're a hero saving a kingdom is at least somewhat unnecessary. When it's an order delivered by the game, it becomes a task. It's like a job. The message should be in that, as a player, your idea of fun ends up making you a hero. Fighting monsters is what you live for and isn't what, say, this fucking guy lives for. Why aren't all these other dudes going out and fighting monsters and questing? Because they're not heroes. They don't find it fun. But you, the player, find it fun. You find killing monsters fun. You find ridding the world of evil things fun. That makes you a hero. Not the dialogue, not the story. A book can tell you the main character's a hero with dialogue. A movie can too. But in a game you can feel it. You can experience it firsthand. You don't need dialogue. Why was the inclusion of so many semantics necessary? And I don't buy the argument that they're only there to richen the world with story, because adding those contexts to the situation is devaluing design aspects. The game literally stops.
Okay, I almost agree with the idea of like, okay, so if a game like it's that idea of like show versus tell. If you could show something, you should do it that way instead of just telling an audience something. But like, I don't think that Ocarina of Time is like a huge, overly like verbose like story. Like, I think they very much just give you like some bare minimum details, a little bit of lore and all this stuff. Like, yeah. Like, again, it's like a complaint that you might, like, maybe you could throw at like some other Zelda games. Like, God knows I've complained about like how the storytelling of like Twilight Princess is told and stuff like that. But like, arguing against the very concept of like trying to tell the story at all, like, yeah, I don't understand that, especially whenever like Link isn't given like that much characterization in this game anyways. Like, you're already like kind of living that ideal like you are an adventurer adventuring just because like type of thing that he wants. Like, yeah, it's like, it's not like this is like some intricate JRPG where like you're getting like just explained to you like you are the son of this person, brother of heir to the throne, and you must go to this place because the political ramifications of this thing have impacted your family for years. Like you're not like being explained like why you're doing stuff. Like, you're just kind of being, this is like the direction to go in if you want to keep saving the world. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I think there is a very important, like, lots of discussion to be had between like how to tell story and how to tell a story through gameplay, but I don't feel like it has to be an all or nothing thing where you can only tell story through like gameplay or whatever. Yeah, and I think like even if you do like, even as it seems like very obvious, like Egoraptor like super values gameplay like over story and everything. And even if that's the case, yeah, like even if that's the case, like the game is still obviously like interested in telling this story. And so I feel like just dismissing it for wanting to tell a story, I feel like that's like a bit problematic. Yeah.
It's for you to complete some asinine story task. Look, you go to Kakariko Village. You go to the entrance of Death Mountain. Dude won't let you pass. You go, what the fuck, man? I want to go up there. That's what I want to do. But no, you have to wait for the game to tell you why you want to go up there. You know why you want to go up there. You want to fight some dudes, fight a boss, get a cool weapon. But no, you gotta go talk to Zelda. Oh, the world is and then Impa's like, hey, you know, this is really important, so I'm gonna give you this note to give to this guy. I don't care.
But it's like, so you see the big Death Mountain volcano, and you want to go there, and the guy won't let you go there because you need the princess's permission. So it sounds like now I want the princess's permission so I can go see that awesome volcano. Like, it's the same type of obstacle that like would be in any other video game. It's just a bit more like story driven because the game can actually like tell a story, and they're interested in using like these cinematic functions to like get something across. Yeah, I don't 100% get that one.
Nobody cares. You seriously just made me waste my time, press A a bunch of times so that I could go up there. There's like a fucking... There's a tiny wall standing between me. I could climb over it. I'm an agile kid. I can climb the shit out of that. I climb vines all the time. No big deal. Purposely misinforming the player.
And then they added climbing to everything in Breath of the Wild. I swear to God, Shigeru Miyamoto sat down, watched this video, and said, fuck you, Egoraptor. We're gonna blow your goddamn mind. We're gonna Breath of the Wild so hard on you. Aonuma too. Aonuma also watched the video.
About what they should care about what they're doing displaces their values, and it creates a you can't tell me what to do attitude towards the game. And that's the last thing you want a game to do. You don't want a game to nag at you, especially in a game with an open world. Just look at how many fucking people.
I don't feel like you should admit to getting frustrated with the Death Mountain guard enough that you want to shoot him. I don't think you should cop to that. That's something you leave on the cutting room floor. That footage gets burned.
People hate Navi and Fee. All they do is nag and tell you what to do. Who the fuck wants to be told what to do? Am I in a cubicle? Am I sitting in a cubicle playing a Zelda game? No. See, this is why I think the Master Sword is brilliant, particularly in Link to the Past, because it's talked about in literal terms. It's a sword that will make you more powerful and defeat evil. That's what it actually does for you, the player. There's no bullshit about avenging your mother or saving a village from persecution or giving Gorons rocks. There's rocks everywhere. What is wrong with you? Your whole town is made of rocks and you're starving? The Master Sword is just the sword of evil's bane. Fucking awesome. How exciting is that? A new awesome sword. Count me the fuck in. And don't get me wrong, I don't think a world where people walk and talk is flawed, but having to trigger the ability to explore...
This isn't even like any comment on the video. But just imagine that sentence in any other context. I'm not saying a world where people walk and talk is flawed. I just think everyone should have their vocal cords removed and be in the Wally machines. Is that too much to ask? Can I get some thumbs up in the chat? What's the matter, Bob? Oh. I want to sit in the cupboard. All right, we got less than 10 minutes left. We can do this.
by walking and talking? It's annoying. It's like your mom. You can't have dessert till you eat your piece.
Are you interrupting my video, good sir? I am trying to react to what all the cool kids are doing. Percy, come here. Meow. What's up? You wanna come up? Come here. Wanna see the people? He just runs away. Runs away. I will hydrate. Thank you, Matt. Pet the bubber. Wanna get pet bub? Come here. The people gave bub coins so that you could be pet. And this is how you repay us? So chatty. Let me see if I can pick him up. What you doing? Where are you going? He's trying to trick me into giving him food. All right. Let's back up a bit. Less than 10 minutes. We can do this.
Talk is flawed, but having to trigger the ability to explore by walking and talking, it's annoying. It's like your mom. You can't have dessert till you eat your piece. Can't explore the dungeon till you play Saria's Song for Goron. There are ways to involve characters in a story and not have them be utterly boring and detached from what you're doing. Why not have a Goron that helps you fight? Goes blows shit up while you're doing stuff. Why not have the Goron stay healthy by eating rocks and they're slowly becoming rarer as you progress through the dungeon? And he's on the verge of fatigue. Shit! Don't you want to get him some rocks to stay the hell alive?
It was 1998, dude. Come on. Do you really want to be dealing with an AI? We've been complaining about Navi for nearly friggin' 25 years, and you want to add an NPC Goron that follows you around on N64 tech? No. I love Gorons, but no.
Let's keep moving so my friend can live. See, I'm a video game player. I care about slashing things, finding things, having an adventure, not wandering around until I pressed A at all the right places in the right order for whatever fucking story reason. It's like the longest page turn ever. Imagine you had to walk across your house back and forth 3 times before you could turn the page in a book you're reading. Gosh, isn't that stupid? Wouldn't that be retarded?
I pressed play again because I was hoping for a second they wouldn't. God damn it, 2014 YouTube. Oofs in the chat. Let me see them oofs. Wouldn't it be fucking ridiculous if my book had words in it? Wouldn't that be stupid?
That's what you're fucking doing in video games. Things just need to be simple. And what I mean by that is, Link to the Past added a story to make everything a little more epic. And since it was the same kind of game as the first, the game needed those tropes to come back. All those enemies and elements, while adding new ones too. But with that, a formula was born. A through line is important for a series, but when it acts like a katamari of tropes and elements that can't be forgotten or changed, things start getting sloppy and samey. We get games that become less and less interesting. Shigeru Miyamoto once described his idea for Zelda coming from the feeling he got from wanting to explore caves near his house as a child, which led to an amazing game where you explore caves and dungeons and found wondrous things. The irony is that when it came time to make sequels, Nintendo cared more about the things that were found, rather than the mystery itself. There is no mystery in modern Zelda games. Hey man, I'm mysterious.
Okay, so I get what he's saying. I don't think that the Zelda series should always keep bringing back the same tropes just because they have to have it to be a Zelda game. Because if you're doing it just for that purpose, like there's not a reason for it. Like, yeah, that's not the best idea. Again, Breath of the Wild seems like a direct response to this, because they threw away like so much stuff that up until that point had been like have to be in Zelda games. So yeah, it's again a thing where I don't think it's a huge issue for the series anymore, but we're about to get into the finale of this video, I believe. We're going to yeah, this was all building up to a big rant on Skyward Sword, because at the time Skyward Sword was the most recent 3D Zelda game, and it seemed to embody a lot of the stuff that Egoraptor really doesn't seem to like about modern 3D Zelda. So this is going to be interesting to watch, knowing that like Breath of the Wild was going to come out and like have a different direction for the series after this. But yeah, this is from the angry era of YouTube, and a lot of it comes off as mean-natured towards Skyward Sword now. So let's watch, shall we?
God, shut up! Seriously, you want all this attention like you care, like you really gave it your all in a new innovative Zelda experience, but instead you led Zelda into a frustrating monotony. You know, what started the franchise was like the sense of wonder, and what has thus far concluded the franchise is a sense of formality, a predictable, time-consuming mess that asks you not of your sense of adventure or even your wits, but instead your ability to listen and follow directions. You ask of us our ability to point something at something else and then walk towards it. You ask of us our willingness to get another bow and arrow, fight another boss with another giant glowing eyeball. Gee, I wonder how to fucking beat it. I fucking wonder, Skyward Sword. You ask of us to get a cat from the top of a roof and carry him over to some guy who says thank you. The Adventures of Link, Cat Delivery Man. Is that your title? What's the tagline in the ads? Cat's out of the bag. And
Why is this your example of something bad Skyward Sword does? Skyward Sword is very controversial. You could have so much discussion on the direction of Zelda, what Skyward Sword means for Zelda, its pros, its cons, but like complaining that there's a little bitty side quest where you could get a dude's cat off his roof, like, what? This Zelda game is a cute optional thing? It's just very weird examples.
on to the roof. 10 out of 10. No Wiimote motion issues here that could possibly cripple the entire experience. Best in the series. You're like a spoiled rich kid who gets everything bought for you your entire life. And then when it comes to making it on your own, you can't take it. You expect everyone to love you because you are who you are. Part of the illustrious Zelda lineage. Nothing could possibly be wrong with you. You look...
Okay. I'm sorry. It's just... Look, we've all been through some shit in the last few years. It's just so funny looking back on like 2014 era YouTube and how fucking personally we took video games we didn't like. I'm not even like... I am not singling out Egoraptor. And again, I want to really, really stress, like, I'm not being negative or anything like that. Like, I legitimately just want to, like, have a discussion about Zelda. But this is fascinating to me as a fucking historical relic. Just, like, how intensely tilted, like, we would get at video games. Not even, like, how mad the games made us, but he is, like, personifying and anthropomorphizing like Skyward Sword into like a snooty like dude that's got it too good. Like this is like the level of fucking like hatred we have for like Jeff Bezos now. Like this is eat the rich energy but directed at a fucking video game. I can't handle it. Okay. Let's continue this. And I have some videos from 2014 where I'm way too angry too. Okay, I am not throwing anyone else under the bus or acting like I was ahead of my time or any shit like that. This is just fascinating to watch the shit that mattered most 2 years before the Trump years. Ah, fuck.
Looks like a Zelda, but you're not one. You're a pampered, doughy snob wearing nice clothes, expecting to graduate scot-free because your daddy's an alum. Why would you need to improve? Why would you need to get any better? Everyone just agrees with your shitty ideas because you're a Zelda. Fuck you, Skyward Sword. Fuck you! Now, as I spent 373,000 years writing this freaking video, a new Zelda game showed up that made everyone pee their pants. You know, except me.
Link Between Worlds.
Do that. Weird. It was a direct sequel to Link to the Past, taking place in the same aesthetic world of Link to the Past. It's called A Link Between Worlds. And I love it. All right, look, it's worth mentioning that it does have nearly an entire formula ripped from a game, but it's fun. But why? Well, I feel partly because
it's top down again?
But it's mostly because of the new mechanic, which is beautifully integrated to the point of feeling second nature, like jumping.
Link Between Worlds is really good. He's correct here.
Nooks and crannies around every turn that contained weird hidden stuff, and there's also this system of pay for an item that adds this interesting value to rupees that no other Zelda had. Not even the Twilight Princess with its stupid, weird, fucking dumbass endgame magic, not magic armor bullshit. Wow, look at that. Sure is expensive to die. Is what we're seeing a commentary on capitalist society and life insurance policies choking the life out of middle America? What's more?
Ooh, Egoraptor with the anti-capitalism in 2014, my woke boy. Love it.
Every item in A Link Between Worlds has multiple uses aside from its, intended dungeon use, and has such a broad feel that they can all be upgraded to be even more useful. While it does eliminate the mystique of finding an item, it allows each dungeon to have a spoil that feels less like it's in tandem with the dungeon. Like it's a treasure that you can enjoy as a general adventurer, not just as a house guest of fucking Mr. Vulnerable for a sec, glowy eyeball, McWeak to arrows. Why did I leave my one weakness laying around my house? Oh no! Ow! Jeez, man, that's my glowy eye! I use that to see? So I think what I've been discussing this whole video doesn't seem like it applies much to this game at first glance, but it absolutely does. This game decided to switch up the Zelda formula from a different angle. And while it doesn't eliminate the Zelda staple items and constant reuse of existing enemies, it does something different in how you interact with all of them. And that something different works. It changed how you explore the world itself, how you find things, and how you figure out things about the world around you. A stupid spinning dumbass top thing doesn't change anything. You find a track on a wall and you ride it. It's like a teleporter, but instead of being transported instantly, you just get there at normal speed. A double dumbass claw shot doesn't change anything. It just means instead of having to land on a platform and awkwardly aim to another claw shot target, you don't have to land on a platform when you awkwardly aim to another claw shot target. Thank God. But this shit, it changes how you view platforms, their relationship to one another, how you view distance, how you view the differences between low rule and high rule. It feels like you're exploring a world again, and the things you find are less important than the way that you find them. It's
Percy. He just hopped up and cracked my wrist against the edge of the desk. You silly boy. Yeah, all the praise for Link Between Worlds, super well deserved. That game's amazing. I forgot that came out shortly before this video, and that was kind of the first oh, Zelda's going in a more open direction kind of pivot that we saw. So I'm glad he liked that. But yeah, also getting the double claw shots does open up a lot. It actually it's a major puzzle mechanic. It adds it adds a second layer onto how you deal with the claw shots, so it ups the complexity. It's a really good escalation of how you use the claw shots in puzzles. I really like that, actually. Okay, we just got a couple minutes left.
Back to how it felt before. The reward was the fact that you did it, not that you found a thing. And you know what? I think this may be Nintendo's way of easing people into being open-minded about a shift in Zelda. I mean, look at this shit. What? Hyrule Warrior? What the fuck does that even mean? Look, what What is going on? Holy crap! Oh my god, this big thing! Jeez, what? How could they ruin Zelda? How could they ruin my favorite thing? Yeah! I'm sure it's good.
What?
Hey, thanks for listening to me shout my opinion at you for fucking 30 minutes. I hope I can make you laugh and
No
make you
problem.
think, and not make you angry, because that wasn't my intention. But
It's okay.
if-
We forgive you, Egoraptor, for the anger. It's all good. I think at the end I think he was just memeing because I think they had just announced Hyrule Warriors like right before this came out. Yeah, like I think it was like the E3 before this came out, so that was just like a topical like thing at the end. But yeah, like in all honesty, like I think that is an entertaining video. As we discussed, like I disagree with a lot of stuff or like how he presents some arguments, but like overall I think Aaron's a really interesting person to listen to talk about game design. I always enjoy Game Grumps and everything like that. So yeah, that was really interesting. Having just gonna put chat back on screen. Yeah, that was really interesting. Like rewatching this video post Breath of the Wild, knowing like where Zelda was gonna kind of go after, and like I hadn't realized like how much of Breath of the Wild kind of lines up with what like the complaints that Aaron kind of had about like 3D Zelda. Now let's watch Angry Jish videos. We are probably going to be wrapping up soon, unfortunately tonight, but we might do some Josh rewatches sometime soon. This was actually a lot of fun. I would love to do a lot more other people's game design videos in the future. Stuff by H Bomber Guy, stuff by Game Maker's Toolkit like Boss Keys. I think that would be